Hello everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Low-Code Cafe, episode 71. Today it's a special release. It's a special edition because I will be demoing the version 1.18. It's not out yet, but we are in the moment where we are nearly code-free, so the feature set and the fixes are what's going to be in the release. But before that, let me introduce myself for new faces and this event as well. My name is Bogdan Litescu. I am the founder and CEO of Predefined. And this is a community event. We are doing it every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central US time. And it's, as I mentioned, it's a community event where we get together to showcase new capabilities that are coming in new releases, but also showcase techniques to develop with low code that vary from very small specific items that we show how to implement to longer segments, which is actually the bigger part of these events, which is hands-on development on various systems, use cases, things like that. So all past editions are on our YouTube channel. This event is being recorded, and I guess there's 70 hours of technical content, very good content, and we often get feedback from people that they are a very good training resource. So not just being in this webinar, but going back when you have a particular problem that we've addressed in one of these webinars. So make sure to visit the YouTube channel, subscribe, and also subscribe to the notifications to stay up to date with new content. A special announcement for today. So just to announce the holiday schedule. I mentioned briefly last week as well. So we'll have a Christmas edition on the 22nd, so 2 weeks from now. And what we'll be doing in that event will be a charity auction. We call it Hacks and Geeks. So basically we'll have a few of our experts up for auction, and then of course the funds that we raise go directly to charity. So I think it will be a fun event while getting the benefit to access some of the people that we have behind the scenes that you've heard stories about. Some you've seen, like Radu, you've seen often in this webinar. Others like maybe Robert, it's more in the backseat, but you've heard stories about him. And of course, the week after, there is no Low-Code Cafe because it's between Christmas and New Year's Eve. I'm sure that many of us will be getting our hands dirty during the holidays with some side projects and so on. But in respect of everyone's time, we'll skip this edition. Cool. So make sure to attend this final event. I think it will be fine. It will be fun. And also, what we'll do in this event, we'll also look at Predefined 1 year ago and Predefined today. You know, just a fun exercise to see how much the platform has evolved in the past 12 months. Okay, the agenda for today is we'll have Dale Warner, our head of support, will give us the stories from the trenches, which is basically a few segments of few techniques that we've encountered recently in our support channel. And then I will also go over the new features, new capabilities, and fixes coming in 1.18. But before that, I just wanted to mention last week we announced that today we are going to switch to beta, but there's still a couple of items left that we want to incorporate and make sure they work well. So we are pushing the beta for Friday, so December 10. The release date, we aim to stay still on the 20th, because I think that will give us 1 week before Christmas, where we can offer timely support, because during the holidays we might have some delays. Awesome. So let's bring it to Dale.
All right. Hello. So today is from the trenches segment. We have 4 things that I wanted to touch on. The first is our product retreat reminder. We started back in August with the ceasing of selling some of our individual products. We continue to sell Action Form, Search Boost, and related add-ons, but the remainder have all been gathered together as Plantain app. And so we encourage anyone using our products to look at Plantain app. And to that end, December 31st is the deadline coming up. It's the final day to renew existing licenses of those retired products. And even then, only for that allows you to continue support through March 31st. So our next deadline, March 31st, that's the end of support. That's the end of our product retreat. It will be complete at that point. So, and then there's still a discount available for people who are using the DNN Sharp products to convert to Plantain app. If you can communicate with our sales department, see if you qualify for that discount. But we encourage you, if you haven't converted yet, now's the time. So then the 3 technical things that I wanted to touch on today. There's predefined fields. This is something that I'm going to be covering in depth in Campfire this week, but it's a fun technique that Bogdan brought to my attention. It's already built into the product. Maybe many of you are already using it, but we haven't talked about it since we started Low-Code Café, so we wanted to mention it. And so just to give you a quick example, a quick taste of what you'll see on Friday, we have this star rating. It could be any kind of field, but I've just placed a star rating on a form. This is default. So it's showing, it's going in half steps, and it's showing, for example, the words to the right are just, number of stars. And so this is, if we look at the configuration of that, we've done nothing more than drop a star rating on the page. And notice that there are a number of configurations that can be set: the step, the size, the minimum, maximum, the words that go with it. And so if you use this all the time and use it in a pre-configured kind of way where you want to do the same things over and over, that's what predefined fields are for. And so I've already done a predefined field called standard star rating, and I'm just going to drop one of those on the form. It's pre-configured with the initial value of 3, 5 stars. I had picked a different color scheme and added some words that go with that, but doing nothing more than dropping it from the predefined and saving. When we refresh the screen now, we have a standard star rating that comes in, and it doesn't do half steps, and it has words that are associated with it. So again, the value is being able to, if there's a field type that you use all the time, configured in a particular way, you can set it up as a predefined field. So that's going to be in Campfire this week. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to drop onto the chat the links to get to Campfire and all the other fun stuff. There's how to get to our community portal, where our webinars are, the webinar feedback form. But do come to Campfire if you have an hour, or at least register for it so you get the notifications and the reminders about what we're up to, so that you can go back and look at them after the fact. So that's predefined fields coming up this Friday. We had a question on one of our support channels talking about the country and region fields and using them with Plantain app. So let's see if I can find that. Yes, this is the one. It was a community forum question. And the idea is that if you want to have to use country and region and use it within Plantain app, well, let's see how these fields are set up. This is because it's my test system, it's a pretty odd naming scheme, but it was Community Forum 1658. So that's where we're going to see these. I'm going to go in and look at the configuration. I'm going to bring that up in a new tab and just look at the entity and the way the entity is set up. So CF 1658. If I were to edit this, this is just a test entity. It has a couple of properties, a place to put a country and a region, and notice that they're entered as text. Add one more called description. Just to take a look at, for example, we have a lot of primitive data types like dates and times and email and large text, but we don't have country and region set up as a primitive type. So if you need to use those kind of capabilities, you would just define them as text, and then we'll make some modifications to the form that comes that is auto-generated to be able to prompt them as countries and regions. In the same way, I'm going to do description. I'm going to define this as a large text, but maybe I want this to be something that is more of a what you see is what you get kind of editor. So we'll do the same thing with that one that we're going to do with country and region, which is override. So I'm going to save an override so that we have our automatically generated forms updated. And so we have country, region, description. If we were to edit in this page and edit the form that's associated with it, the auto-generated form, we can do some overrides in here to make these things more interactive with the user. So instead of using a text box, we can go to convert this into a country box. It's still being initialized with country as the value. So it's still getting its data out of the data field, but now it's going to act like a country field that's going to automatically have a list of countries. In the same way, we can convert the type of this from text box to region and do a little bit of wiring here because region wants to point to a country field. So we're going to point it to our forms country field. And so making this change is going to make these both prompt and interactive with dropdowns. So you'll see that in a second. And then the final change, I'm going to convert this one from a large text into an interactive, what you see is what you get editor. I just happen to know that the initial value, I'm just going to copy this initial value of original description because it's named slightly different within the TrumboWig tool that I'm going to choose. When I pick TrumboWig, the initial value appears to go away because the field is named differently. So I'm going to, other than that small wiring thing where I'm going to make it be initialized with the description that's coming from the database that's from our init actions. Those are the only changes I'm going to make. So when we save that and refresh, now these fields, if we were to edit or add a new one, are going to be interactive. So even though behind the scenes, the value is RO relates to the Romania choice. We can pick, for example, let's go to Namibia instead and pick a different region. These, when we update on those, it changes country and region, but it allows you to be interactive using that. And so if we were to go to the United States, notice the region list switches to a list of states, and so we can update there. And then in the same way, we have our, instead of this being a large text field, it's a TrumboWig field. So we can do things like bold and things like that. So just as a reminder about overriding, when you change the underlying form of something, when you go back to entities and try to edit, it knows, and so let's say, for example, I'm just going to make a small change, make this searchable and save. It knows that the forms that it generated, that you've done some differences now. And so you get this warning message. It looks a lot worse than it is. It's just telling you that these are all the things that are different from what it expected and it just means that your form has been manually overridden. And for that reason, the automation that generates those forms doesn't overwrite the work that you did. So even though, so we can make changes, and even still, this form will, let's see, I'm going to refresh here just to make sure I get the current version of it. But this form that comes up will maintain the changes that you've selected. All right, so that's how to use country and region, and in this case here, TrumboWig as well, with PlantinApp. You define the field as, you define the entity with a text type property, and then just override. And so that's that next one. And we did predefined fields. So country and region fields. So the last one I wanted to mention is configuring search to work with content from database. We had a question, this is actually an email dialogue I'm having with somebody that's trying to get this configured, and I've been explaining it by email, but I wanted to mention it on here. Maybe it's a nice resource for him or somebody else that's trying to configure this. So the idea is that we have some data that's locked away in our database, and we want to be able to search on it. And if I, for example, we have users, and I have a variety of users on this system. If I search for Dale Warner in the search results, this is using our Search Boost or search product that's built into PlantinApp. It gives me a lot of places where that appears, but it's not taking me where I want to go. If we, and what I mean by that is within, and I've got a page defined here with a different skin, so it makes it a little easier to demonstrate it. Within the DNN product that all this is based on, you can, there is a activity feed, the ability to see the activity feed of other users. And so when you navigate there, it shows this URL activity feed, and it has a user ID at the end of it. And notice that it's, I happen to be looking at my user ID, which is 1, but if you change that to a 2, it will view the activity feed of a different user. So if our goal is to be able to show the activity feeds of all of our users as part of search results, we can get there by using the database entry, all of the users table, and this URL here. So I am going to work through that right now. It's a pretty easy process. The first is that within, we're going to need, we have the URL that we need, and then we are going to need the user ID. That's going to come from our database. We're also going to need a title and a description for our for what the search results are going to look like. So the first step to that is that we're going to build a SQL query, and you have to know the database a little bit, but I'm going to say top 3 are users, and it's going to show me all of the database, excuse me, all the columns that are involved in that database. So we have username, first name, last name, display name. And so we can use this information to start to create a the information that we're going to need. And so part of what we're going to need is, I'm going to start picking out columns here. We're going to need user ID because we need a unique identifier for the column. We'll use the display name as the title. We're going to need a description and a URL. So let's go ahead and build the URL first. So we're going to do something to get to the URL column. And the something is that we want to end up with a URL that looks like this. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it here. But we really want to append the user ID at the end. So I'm going to use the SQL concatenation function so that I can append things easily. And instead of having it be hard-coded to user ID 2, we're going to add the user ID as as part of the concatenation. So when we run this query, now we get a URL that says user ID 33, 29, and we can test this. We can copy this out and go back to another browser window and enter it, and it brings up user ID 33. So our URL is good. And now we have one more bit of data that we want to come up with, which would be, what do we want the description in the search results to be? So we'll build that up as well. So perhaps that's going to be something like the activity feed for, and then we'll add display name as part of that. So the description is going to be the activity feed for these people, right? So I now want to, in my SQL, I don't want to limit it to just 3 users. I want to get all the users because I want all the users to be returned in the search results. So this is everything we're going to need. And now we just need to feed this to the search program. So I'm going to copy this and open up search. I like to work in a new tab to keep things open as I go. So let's take a look at that. We have, these are going to show up as database entries, and we have none of those at this point, so 0. So we'll be able to tell very easily if we've gotten something to happen. We're going to take a look at, these are going to be content sources. It's a database indexing rule. So we're going to create a new rule, and it's going to be the activity feed rule. And we're going to paste our query here and load the columns. We want it to index the display name and the description. So that'll be what is included in search. And then when we link, we're going to, you get a number of options. I'm just going to pick the one that we need today. We're going to link by URL column, and that is the URL right here. So that's when it comes up in search, that's the URL. The ID is going to be the user ID. That's a unique column. And the title is going to be display name, and the description is going to be our description column. So we've built up pretty much everything we need. This is kind of a fun thing. I'm going to add a category of activity feed. Spell it. And that gets us, adds a nice little feature. You'll see it in search in just a second. So that's all we have. I'm going to save that result. And when we, then I want to also make sure that it gets activated. We have it, indexing rule has been created, but I'm going to activate it and say save and choose the re-index choice. And so indexing starts to happen, and we see immediately that we've gone to 18 database entries, which is all of our users. So now when we go to search and look for Dale, search gives us a number of things, and some of them are activity feed for Dale admin Warner, Dale manager Warner. I've got a lot of test users out on the system, and you can see the URL for each one is slightly different. It's using the data from the database. It's using that URL column. So if I want to look at Dale citizen Warner here and click on that, it opens that activity feed for us. So we've taken data we've used the data that's in our system, in this case, the users table, and connected it with an activity feed that we discovered the URL for and added it to search. So pretty neat technique. And then this feature where I typed the word activity feed, all of those are now identified by this facet of activity feed. And so we can focus, if we wanted to pay attention to billing kinds of results, we could click that. But if we want to focus on activity feeds, it's going to focus, it'll filter everything else out automatically. And so now we see only the activity feed so we focused in on a particular set of records. So it's really a pretty cool way to be able to add what you want into your search index, and then to be able to search on it. So hopefully that quick introduction to that particular aspect of the search will allow you to get content that's in your database entries. And I will just mention the Plantain app entities are already there. That when you use if you activate search on a Plantain app entity, those automatically appear as part of search results if you activate them. And with that, I'm going to reserve the rest of the time for Mr. Bogdan to show us what's going on in 1.18.
Thanks, Dave. I will reshare my screen. Okay, so I mean, 1.18. It's as announced. It's a lot about UI improvements, especially in the admin area. But I will give you a perspective on what's coming as well in 1.19. But you know, in 1.17 we announced this revamp of the automation page, and I guess many of you have already experimented with it. So basically, switching from this old UI, we call it already old, and I guess what you've seen in Dale's demo just now. It's a lot of this UI with blue, which was like a Bootstrap 3 standard kind of UI, switching to this more new, nicer UI. So we did this in the automation page in 1.17. So this is how it looks like in 1.17, and of course you have all the settings. It's just a better layout, more structures, cleaner, nicer UI and everything. We also did a bit of facelift in 1.18 on the automation screen. But what I wanted to show today is that we've extended this UI to the rest of our, let's say, modules with old UI. So I will probably not go very deep in each of them, but I want to show you each screen individually. So let's start with API endpoints. So API endpoint, you see the same layout with the tabs at the top. You know, we split the settings in these tabs. Also the numbers with the number of, let's say, main objects, buttons at the top, save at the top right. So then you'll see that if I go back to automation, you know, it's the same layout everywhere. You know, so now save button, cancel button there, main actions here, tabs and content. So getting back to the API endpoint. So yes, nicer, cleaner UI, but also we improved in nearly all aspects of this API building. So for example, let's start with the sample code, you know. So for example, adding better formatting, so it's much easier to copy paste, fixing some glitches here and there, you know, things like that have been addressed. Let's go a bit into the edit mode. So again, this 1, 2, 3 kind of categorizing settings. We receive good feedback about it, as it creates nice delimitation and also creates a reference point if you are going to explain it to someone. You know, go to section 4 already sets the expectation how far they need to scroll. But all the settings are there. Notice that we switched to using the friendly URLs. So if you use the API endpoint, you know that we had two kinds of URLs. We had the long one with desktop modules, DNN Sharp API endpoint in them, and this shorter form that was not supported by LDNN versions back in the day, but now it's fully supported. So we switched to this one, which I think creates much nicer APIs. And with all the samples, and we look at some of the samples, you see that they use this new format.
Bogdan, while you're there, a question: if people who are upgrading to the old formats still work? Is there a
Yes, they still work. And in fact, here I'm not super user, but if you were logged in as super user, you'll still see the old format as well.
Excellent. Just it's not a conversion point, but it is better going forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
One thing also in the testing area. So again, you see this this kind of menu that you'll see all over the place in entities, in workflows. You know, you have the main feature, and then you have the object. In this way, in this case, it's the API that gets a list of releases, and then if there's more screens below, we do it like this. We never go more than 3 level dips, because then it becomes difficult UI. We improved this this screen as well. As you can see, again, nicer formatting all over the place. Yeah, and then also we separated, for example, the security tab used to be API keys, you know, so we did a bit of renaming, and also included other features, because these are some security features that especially first-time users look for, like how do I define cross-domain policy or JWT tokens. They are here just to mention that you define them in each individual API. So again, just improving the developer experience, you know, because now you know that, oh, I have to go to the method, and then I will find it here at the end. Okay, so this is API endpoint. Next, Dale showed the search boost earlier, which also got a nice facelift. So in this case, again, we split it into a few different tabs. First is the dashboard, which we also rearranged a bit. Especially with these content sources, as you install more add-ons, more plugins, more integration with other modules as well, this list will get bigger and bigger. And it was the issue with the older UI; it would not scale nice. But now the way we did it, it just scales horizontally. And of course, if the space finishes or smaller screen, it will go on the next row. So I think this creates a much cleaner UI. We've separated the content sources in its own tab. So content sources means everything that needs to be indexed from the portal pages or documents, you know, and this used to exist. So it's just repackaging them. It's nothing new that I'm showing here. The indexing rules, the database indexing rules that Dale just demoed, they are here. Again, notice that it goes a bit as a side menu, as a sub-menu. Exceptions to this content, and then the file types, and some settings relating to documents. I mean, you can already see that there's still many iterations that we can go. For example, all these settings are related to documents, so probably all these together with this one should be their own category. No? So this is, of course, an ongoing work, and we'll keep doing. One good question from Jen Sharp is the new UI just in configuration, or is it also in the modules like Action Grid and so on? Yes, it's in all modules, and we'll get to that. And in fact, this is also for Search Boost. So if you have just the search module, the Search Boost module, you still get this UI, you know. So if I were to go to a page, let me create myself. Can I create a new page with this role? I'm not sure that I can. Never mind. I will maybe add it here to the homepage. So let's get a Search Boost module in here. What? Oh, again, my permissions. So I think I should probably log in with a super user to not affect the demo. So give me 1 second.
Yeah, it was me struggling last week. So it can't be easy, you know, always with the demo, there's something going on.
Yes, so now I can do my own thing. So I'll create a custom page for the, let's say my search page, my search. Add this page. So, and actually I think, I think we do have search boost directly in the persona bar. So I could use this, So now, as a non-Plantain app user, I still see the same UI, So we are, in this case, we are using the same screens. Cool. Okay. And I guess the same with settings. We moved this skin patching because it used to be on the dashboard, so the first thing you see, but it's something that you do once and that's it. So we moved it more in the settings. Still a bit of highlight because it's something that you usually want to do when you install search on a custom skin. But the rest of the sections we just kept, but we split into a couple of major categories. And this UI under the arrows is pretty much the same. Probably we'll get rid of these arrows as well in future versions. I think Patrick mentioned that they are not so intuitive that they contain so many settings, or maybe the expectation is that maybe the screen will change entirely. Okay, so yes, let's jump to the form and listing modules, since they've been mentioned. So here I'm going to my entity page. So I just created a simple entity, just let's say 118. We are launching on this 10th. Of December. So we have our releases. So of course, under the gear icon, we have form and listing. So let's start with the form. Something is not right here. I think maybe I don't have this upgrade on this instance. Let's try again. Okay. I have a backup. I have a local instance, so probably I will switch to that. Okay, the listing is here, so maybe I'll show the listing and I will show the form from my local instance. So this is the action grid. So again, notice that we've split it in a couple of different tabs. First, we have the data source. So the data source is still the same thing. So you can select where the data comes from. In this case, it's tied to the releases entity. And then we have these the fields, so pretty much the same functionality, add custom fields. One thing that I want to point out is you see this red warning here. So actually we made this form builder inside action grid. So this was a feature. We made it obsolete and we will remove it in 120. It's a very useful capability, but let's say the architecture of it is not very good, because if you have a large data grid with form builder that has many forms, it gets very, very, very slow and resource intensive. But also we are seeing a pattern, some different pattern emerge. Even us, we rarely use this feature. Normally we use form in pop-ups. That seems like to be the standard nowadays. Or you can also use inline details. There's an action in action grid that opens like a small pop-up below the row. And then in that pop-up, of course, you can embed the forms or other grids or things like that. So. And also inline editing capability. So if it's something simpler, inline editing is very fast, very smooth, and easy to configure. So there's three alternatives to doing it, and the form builder will not be one after 120, but it's something that probably we'll reconsider in the future as we are revamping action form to do let's say a better, more native integration between the two. On the button, same thing. We took the button in their own screens, so they are much easier to find. Item buttons, we are still struggling how to call this, let's say, grid buttons, they were called before. So basically the buttons that are for the entire grid, not just for a single item. So probably we'll just call them buttons as it was suggested by the community. But again, other than this, it's the same thing, the same capabilities. We got views into their own tab as well. So of course now we are in a bit of transition state with views between old templates and new templates. So you'll still see all the settings that you are used to in this second section, and in this first one is where we'll keep extending it with the new templates as we mature them. And at some point, this will become obsolete and replaced entirely. And the settings is pretty much the same thing. Bunch of settings and also the categories at the bottom. I guess this one are a bit difficult to find. I think I heard in the last campfire somebody asked, where do we find the JavaScript APIs for Action Grid? You know, they are here at the bottom, so I guess they are a bit obscure to find. So again, this will be something that we continue iterating and improving on. So, and also, you know, at some point there was, I think, a small feature, but really, really appreciated, to change the module title, you know, because every time you add a form to the page or a grid to the page, it gets the same title. And when you start having multiple forms all across the website and you want to maybe clone a form or reference a form, they are all named the same. So we added this feature where you can rename forms and listings, and now we moved it here directly in the let's say in the header section. No, so now I'm changing it, I'm saving it, and that's it.
Perfect. Anybody who's watched any of my videos, watch this. I always change the names to make them make sense on the page.
Yes. Let's see if we are lucky with Tabs Pro. So the Tabs Pro module also got the same thing. So again, newer, nicer UI, same settings, just cleaned it up a bit, and the same with settings. They are all nice and clean. Okay, let's see. Let me check again the form. Maybe no. So I think something happened, but never mind. I will just dig after my local instance. Let's see. And then I will get that. I will get that demoed. In the meantime, until this instance spins up, maybe let me introduce you to this list that we started building, and we want to get this list somewhere public, so probably in the community portal. So we started building this list of obsolete features that we are going to remove, but also set ourselves a target to remove them, because you know, we realized that we have some features that were developed, I don't know, a decade ago, you know. Like, for example, this jQuery UI date picker that actually has been hidden from the menus for the past couple of years. But if you kept upgrading the same instance, you'll still be able to use them. But we decided in 1.18 to remove them entirely. You know? So this will be a breaking change for people that still use those jQuery UI date pickers. We have other 2 generations on top. So we had another date picker that replaced it many years ago, and then another one was developed last year. So this is, let's say, 3 generations ago. So this will be a breaking change, but also, and I mentioned this inside the listing, the form builder will make it obsolete in 1.18 with a target to remove in 1.20. And then same with background images and left and right sidebar for form, and I will show you that in a minute. We'll make this obsolete in 1.18 because it feels they are more like page building capabilities, not form building capabilities. So let me get into my local instance here and show you the form as well.
And while that's loading, I see that Jim was asking about tabs within tabs. We haven't addressed that yet, right? Have we?
We haven't addressed it yet, no. Okay, so let me find a. I have an entity page here, so let's open a form. So again, same layout, title. Again, here is where you can add it to the form, and then the module ID is visible, so it's useful to find it quickly. And then we have these main actions here, back and save on the right. We move the add field button at the top with all the controls. So here, I mean, everything that was there before, you can still find it here. But of course, if, for example, I add the button, it goes to the button section. No. So and also you see we also added shortcuts for adding buttons, so you don't have to go through that to add the button here. You can just click here and the button is added, you know, and so on. What else? This is the predefined fields that Dell was mentioning, and I'm looking forward to that Campfire demo. And we've separated the layout in its own screen. So again, this is the same functionality we had before. We are looking actually to maybe improve this builder, get a nicer library for building such layouts in here as well. And then all the events we move to their own page. So from page load, pre-init, on init, on submit, on validation failed, but also the tab events. So now they are all in this in the same place under the events tab. And finally, the general settings, we move them to their own tab. And you see here we got rid of the arrows, so it's no longer like you have to click to expand. They are already expanded from the beginning. And again, we separate them with sections, so you can easily find them. And notice this, for example, this red, again, this red triangle tells me what I just mentioned, that this feature is obsolete and will be removed in 1.20. So this background feature, I'm not sure if anyone used this feature ever. I don't think we ever used it, because setting the background to a form you normally do from the page or from the container. You don't do from the form itself. And also this left sidebar and right sidebar, they were useful to put some content on the left of the form or on the right of the form. But again, on the page layout, you can build this much easier and much more flexible with better rules, you know, in terms of how big should it be and things like that. Same with the right sidebar.
By the way, on the chat, we're getting some nice comment about seeing the module ID at the top of the form.
Yes, I'm glad to hear it. Okay, let's see. I have a couple more items, but I think on the UI, maybe just mentioning the menu builder. So NavXP also got the same treatment. Now, so same layout, settings. Also not going very deep into it. We got the same thing we got to do in the info box in training section. So again, same effects, same layouts, same design. We fixed the interactive mode, so you can properly pick items and things like that. There's still a couple of glitches left. It's one of the things that we postpone the beta. But again, this one looks much cleaner. Of course, it's responsive, so if you need more space, you can resize it. And then we improved this this picker quite a bit, so now it highlights properly, doesn't go outside. So yeah, things like that. And I think these are all the modules. But besides this, there are also a couple of functional changes and also a big major feature that it's unfortunately not that visible, and I semi have it to show it to you. Let's maybe start with this one. So what you see here on this page, let me maybe close this interactive mode and go directly to this page. So what you see on this page, it's a Bootstrap 5 action form. So it's pretty slick, but we are not done with it yet. Let's look a bit at the settings. So it actually has a template that we can only use internally, so it will not appear for you in 1.18, but it will appear in 1.19, where you can select the Bootstrap 5 template. We transitioned many of the fields, so maybe 40% of the fields are already working. It's a very nice UI. This is the template out of the box. We haven't customized it yet. But yeah, this is our major goal for 1.19, to switch the UI to Bootstrap 5, but also make it look the same thing that we did on the backend, to make it look really, really slick. Make the same thing for the end user facing UI, to look really, really slick out of the box. And our first milestone with this, and actually what will be in 1.18, is the fact that we, let me go back to a configuration. The SQL console page, as you can see here, it's already Bootstrap 5. So just this page alone from the entire 1.18 will be using Bootstrap 5. So we can test it directly in production environments to see how it behaves, where it fails, things like that. Still, I don't have the latest version here. It looks a bit better, but I think it's looking good. I think it will be a huge step forward for us. Nobody's waiting for Bootstrap 5. Everybody gets excited about buttons, but not Bootstrap 5.
Oh, I don't know. There's several cases on the support channel where people are interested in that. One of the big people that are don't happen to be on board today, so that's probably why you're not seeing comments.
Yeah. Another big item that we've done, and actually this is again something that we started in. Oh, we have an issue here. Let me try it. Let me go back to my demo. No. Okay, so it's just my local copy. So one of the things that we did, we continued our journey to clean up a lot of the actions that you see here. The bigger items are, once we got rid of that entities and we renamed it list and objects, let's say the in-memory or temporary entities, how we call them, which became list of and objects. Now we renamed the plant and app category to entities. So now you have the plant and app entities under this category. Now you have all the actions related to the entities. And same with workflows. So now it's no longer called plant and app workflow. Of course, I don't have any workflows, so let me maybe just create a workflow first. Let's call this no op workflow. Doesn't do anything. Let me go save. Okay, let me create a new one, so at least we have the category. So now we have the workflows category, which contains all the workflows. So previously, I think it was called plant and app workflows, so a long name. Now it's just workflows. And I mean, there's a long list of 16 items that we had for renaming. Also, the role actions we moved under the security. So all the roles, the little role, create role, they now live in the security area. We did a bit of change, which I think this one I need to explain a bit. Let's see. So we had this action inject data, but also the action to apply tokens. So there was a few different actions that basically were doing more or less about the same thing. So now we are making this inject data obsolete. No? So inject data was just about creating variables inside the context. And we are replacing it with an action that we call execute token, not execute token. Sorry. How is this called? Oh, create update tokens. Okay. Yes. So create update tokens, and this was a suggestion that came from Dale as well to describe more about what they do, not what they are. You know. So create update tokens, I think it's a very good name for it. And it's basically the same thing. You create tokens inside the context. But this one, we brought the functionality from apply tokens, where you can also implement recursion. So if you have tokens that return other tokens, you can put 2 and go do the tokenization twice on the value, basically. So this was one that I think it will help avoid a lot of confusion and a lot of. A question that I see on the chat: will inject token automatically change to the new action type? So actually, no. Actually, apply token will automatically convert to this create update token, while the inject data will just stay as obsolete. No, so inject data will just say, as it says here, it will remain inject data, but be obsolete.
Yep, continue to work the exact same way, just a better name for people who are moving forward.
Yeah. We are near the end of our time. Maybe just mentioning the other big items is one. Adding the capabilities to reference assemblies directly here in the razor action. So this opens the door. So this was a glitch on our initial implementation, and in tokens we supported this, and here in the action not. So right now it will be possible, which I always thought that these capabilities will make my tokens obsolete, especially the custom tokens part. Okay, and then I think there's also one item. I'm not sure if you saw, there was a security fix, which I think it's a high risk item. It was classified as a high risk item. It was identified in the listing module in Action Grid. So this was provided as a hotfix for 1.17. So if you didn't get it, it will be included automatically in 1.18. So I think it's another strong reason to upgrade sooner rather than later. And there's a couple more fixes, but I think for now I managed to give you a good perspective on what's coming in 1.18, and also a good perspective on what we are aiming with 1.19 to do the same kind of polishing and user experience on the end user pages. Okay, well, thanks everyone for being here. Again, the beta will be launched on Friday. We'll email the beta list as well with the changelog and the updates. If you are not in the beta program yet, please reach out to me or to Ben Santiago, that's running the program. And thanks, Del, for showing us the interesting techniques, and I'm looking forward to the campfire on Friday. Bye, everyone.